All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Oya, long name Oya Karo on Twitter. In this video, I'm going to show you a little bit of a walkthrough on how you can deploy a CandyMachine v2. This is going to be a very bare bones deployment. We're not going to use all the bells and whistles like the CAPTCHA or whitelisting. This is just going to be a very basic, very get up to speed, pretty quick tutorial. I assume that you have at least some experience with a terminal, preferably not just some, preferably a little bit more than that. Please have some experience before you attempt an actual production deployment of CandyMachine v2. This is on the path. Another thing is, before you attempt anything with CandyMachine, I highly urge you to read through the Solana documentation, which you can find on the Solana website, and I will show in a second as well. That will give you a lot of the fundamentals that you will need to know to be able to work with this, even though the CandyMachine v2 is a very simple and very straightforward tool, and frankly, just amazing tool. But having knowledge of the Solana fundamentals and ecosystem and the inner workings, at least on a high level, is necessary. Speaking of docs, I highly encourage you to read the docs. RTFM, read the docs. Without reading, you will not get far. So invest those 2, 3, 4, 5 hours to reading the documentation. That can save you quite a couple hours in hitting your head against your desk because you're stuck, because you didn't read the documentation. With that being said, if you get stuck anywhere, you can read the error message that's out there. That's always my tip number one. Read the error message. The error message usually contains what's wrong. Then secondly, you can Google that error message. If that doesn't help, you can go to the Metaplex GitHub repo, search for the error message. And if that doesn't help either, then you can come to the Metaplex Discord and somebody will for sure help you out. Why? Because this is a very fast changing code base. We're currently on 0.02 in version, and things will break. By the time you will see this video, there is a high chance that commands that I'm executing here are not working anymore. So with that being said, let's jump into the project. And we're just going to take it a bit slower. I'm going to pay attention to take this a bit slower. And that's pretty much it. So let's go to the Metaplex documentation, which you can find at docs.metaplex.com. The Metaplex repository you can find in the Metaplex Foundation's GitHub under Metaplex right here. We're going to clone this repository, which is you'll come here, click copy, just come here. We are in my home directory, and we're just going to do a very simple git clone. We're going to clone into Metaplex. It is that simple. So for the time being, let's go back to the documentation. And in terms of CandyMachine, you can just come here. I would actually encourage you to read a little bit through the general documentation, not jump straight into CandyMachine, because that will give you a little bit of, it will shed a little bit of light on how Metaplex actually is structured. For example, the terminology is a very important one, or the token metadata standard. The token metadata standard will give you a high-level overview of what is actually contained in an NFT, how that actually works, how the actual data, how the JPEG is shown on the screen when somebody buys, somebody sells it. Because the NFT itself, of course, is just a token on the chain that doesn't have actually any data. So I'll go over some of these things after the tutorial as well. So let's jump into the CandyMachine introduction though. Let's see if we have cloned it. So we're going to open that folder right here, Metaplex. Beautiful. Now we open up a terminal. You can open a terminal by coming up here, clicking new terminal. That will open up this here for you. Now, let's go back to the documentation. I'm just going to work off of the documentation because frankly, it is really good documentation. There are a couple points where it is inaccurate, but by the time you will see this video, it will probably have been updated. So let's get started. Before you get started, you will need to have some tooling installed, as it says here. Let me make this a bit bigger, actually. Let's say a bit bigger. Well, I'm just going to do this. So I assume you know how to use Git. To install Node on Mac OS, I actually recommend using Brew. So if you don't have Node installed yet, that is the local JavaScript execution environment, so to say. But I'm not a JS developer, so somebody will probably correct me on that. The easiest way to install Node on macOS is to do node brew install Node at 16. This will install Node version 16 on your Mac. Now we can check that by doing node -- version. I already have that installed. I already have all of these tools installed. The second one would be Yarn and TS Node. They can be installed with a Node package manager, which you can find under npm. This is installed by default when you install Node 16 via Brew, but we're just going to check that it's installed, as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to do npm install global. Global just means that it's going to install it for your whole computer, not just here in the local directory. So what we're going to install is Yarn and TS Node. Yarn is basically like npm, but different. Again, not a JavaScript developer, but we're going to be using Yarn in this tutorial. And TS Node is allowing you to execute TypeScript in a Node environment. So I already have both of them installed, but I'm just going to make sure that they are. So again, we can do Yarn version to verify that they are indeed installed and they are indeed working. Let's do the same with TS Node 10.4. All right, beautiful. Okay, after this, we're going to need to install the Solana CLI tooling, which you can find on this site. So docs.solana.com, and coming here down to command line and install the Solana toolchain. You can just execute this command, simply copy, paste it in your terminal, hit enter, and it will install it for you automatically. I already have it installed, so it's not going to reinstall it for me. Now, after that is done, we will also check that it is working. For you, it will probably print out that you will have to add it to your path, which you need to do. If you need to do it, if not, then not. So we're going to check it. You can check if it's working with Solana -- version. As usual, again, if it's telling you that Solana command not found, then you probably don't have the Solana executable in your path, in which case add it to your path, follow the instructions that the previous command printed out, because it printed out. Okay, so it's asking us first and foremost to clone and install Metaplex. We already did that just now. Let me clean my terminal. We're going to go into this folder, into the JS folder, and install all the dependencies that Metaplex will be using. So we're going to go to JS and then do a yarn install. Now this will take quite a long time because there's a ton of packages and ton of dependencies that this needs to install. So just we're gonna let this run for a second and come back when it's finished. All right, the yarn install has finished. We have all of our packages installed. So let's just check back on the documentation of what's the next step. All right, so next we're going to make sure that we can execute, that we can work with our CandyMachine v2 CLI tool. So we're going to come back into our terminal. I'm going to clean my terminal. Let's just check what's in here. LSLA. Alrighty, so the CandyMachine CLI tool is here in JS, packages, CLI, source, CandyMachine v2, CLI, TLS. So the way we're going to be executing this is we're going to be using TS node packages slash CLI slash source slash CandyMachine v2 TLS, and we're going to do a version to make sure that it is executable indeed. Now, this CLI tool is quite slow at some point, so just bear that in mind. It's not, it's not instantaneous, as you can see, but that's totally okay. There we go. 0.0.2. By the time you're watching this, it might be a higher version number. So, a quick note: if you get issues anywhere, you can use the -- help flag at any point on any command, which will print out what you can do within the CLI. So we have all these options: upload, withdraw. I'm saying this because these might change. These commands, the names might change. So if you're stumbling across somewhere that tells you to execute this command, but it tells you that that command cannot be found, or anything for that matter, use the help flag. It will always give you the most up-to-date information of what's possible. Now that we have that working, we're going to come back here and go back to the documentation. Now, the next step is that we have to have our Solana setup configured, right? Okay, so to do that, we already installed our Solana CLI. What we're going to do is we're going to do Solana address to check if our configuration is up and running. And as you can see, there is no configuration here. There is no valid configuration because I deleted this private key from before, so we're just going to set it up from scratch. Down here, it tells you exactly what you're going to need to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Solana keygen new out file, which is the out file that specifies where the private key is going to live. This command is going to create us a new private key out file. So I'm just going to name this cmdevnet.json. It doesn't really matter what you name it. You just got to remember what you named it. So this is going to put a private key in here. For the passphrase, we don't really need a passphrase for now. This is just development. We're just going to skip this. And as you can see, we got our JSON file within our JS directory because we've been here in JS. And this is a binary format private key. This is not a string that you would, or an address that you would normally see. This is the same. This is a private key. It's just in binary format, and this is what the Solana CLI needs. So what we got to check now is if we check Solana address again, which would print out this the public key associated with this private key. It works now, but it might not work for you just yet because my configuration has already been using this file from before. So even if I recreated it, the path was the same. But for you, what we're going to do is we're going to configure the location of this key pair. So you need to tell the Solana CLI's configuration where the key pair is that you're gonna want to be using. So to do that, we first check Solana config get. This will print out the current configuration. So this is where our configuration file lives. Our RPC URL, which is basically which network we're connected to, which API of the network we're connected to, which network's API we're connected to. And this is the important part here, the key pair path. As you can see from before, this is already referencing the path that I just created here, but I'm going to set it again just to show you. So to do that, we can do Solana config set, and actually I forgot what that is, and just to show you, set -- help. And it tells us pretty nicely that it's the K flag, and we're going to give it the full path to this configuration file, which I have right nowhere. So I'm just going to do, always give it the full path, not a relative path, not a local path, not just cmdevnet.json, even though it would work from here, from this folder. If you navigate away from this folder, it's going to break. So always give it a full path. Now we're going to do that, and it's just going to print out the configuration again. You are probably not on the DevNet if you haven't used the Solana CLI yet. So we're going to set it to the DevNet. I'm going to show you how to set it to the DevNet as well. So to do that, the same command, Solana config set, and we have it already here. So the URL is what we're going to be using. That's the flag -u. And let's go back to the documentation to copy this. This is the URL of the DevNet, and paste, enter, and just double check that everything is good. So we are on DevNet. Our WebSocket is also pointing to the DevNet, and which has been computed from the RPC URL. So you don't need to set this manually. And that our key pair is the valid key pair that we just created here. Now, at this point, we would take a copy. We would copy out the address of the public key of this key pair because we're going to need it later. So just make a copy of this somewhere. So continuing on, if we execute the command Solana balance, this is going to print out how much SOL we have in this wallet, the wallet that is corresponding to this key pair. Of course, we have 0 SOL because this is a brand new wallet. So let's get us some SOL. The way to do that is we can do Solana airdrop 2, and then we'll paste in the wallet's address that we just created. So this means Solana is the right. So the airdrop command can give us some SOL. This only works on DevNet, so don't try on mainnet. It will not work. 2 is the maximum limit of SOL that you can get at one point in one go. So as you can see, we just got 2 SOL, and then this is the address that we just created. That's why we took a note of that. Now 2 SOL might not be enough. It might be enough, but 4 is always better than 2. So we're just going to do another one. 4 SOL is going to be enough. All right. So let's continue. That is all that we needed to set up for the Solana CLI. Now, in the documentation here, you can see the configuration of all the available configuration values that the CandyMachine can use. We're just going to gloss over this and use this default, this minimal configuration that's put out here. But I would, again, highly encourage you to read the documentation and read the possible values. Now, we're going to copy this out. We're going to go back here, and we're going to create a new file right in this JS folder called config.json, and we're going to paste it right in here. We're going to save this. Now, here it's important to not leave this placeholder empty because this will give you an error. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to take this address that we have here that we just created again. This is going to be our main wallet address and paste it here. What this is this is the SOL treasury account. This is the address that the mint is going to be sending the SOL to. So when somebody comes in and mints an NFT that we're going to be later be setting up the front end, this is the address that they will be sending the SOL to, and then in return they will get the NFT. Now here you could use a separate address, not the main one that you're using to deploy the CandyMachine. It really comes down to preference. I actually don't have a preference, or there's no best practice currently on how to do this. You can do either way. You can use this address that you're using to deploy the CandyMachine with, or you can use a separate address to send to receive the funds from the mint. Another thing that I will adjust is the price that I'm just going to be using 0.1 for this mint because it's just development and it's just easier. I'm not going to be using up my dev funds so fast, so it's just going to be cheaper. Again, we're not going to use any of the bells and whistles like the CAPTCHA. This is just the bare bones, quickly get going tutorial. If you're working on an actual mint in a production on the mainnet, you should definitely be using the CAPTCHA. You should probably be using whitelists as well. Anything really that can help eliminate bots, because that is the biggest problem that we have nowadays. Bots. All right, that's pretty much it that we needed to do right now. Now, the next point is that we're going to have some assets that we're going to be deploying that are going to be the actual NFTs, that are going to be the actual JPEGs. Now, the way CandyMachine works is that we have a picture. This is as shown here, 0.png, and then we have the accompanying metadata with the exact same name, just in 0.json. Now, in that JSON, this was the token metadata standard. That file is going to be dictated by the token metadata standard. We already have here a sample items, and this is for one example. This is one example of one of the NFTs, one of the JSON metadata. What we're going to do here is just use the sample collection, so we don't have to create our own collection. I've already downloaded this once, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down here and copy this into the JS folder as we are. I renamed it Assets Pictures because we already have an Assets folder here, and I just didn't want it to conflict. You can name it whatever. Just make sure that you adjust the commands as we go further along. And just to show you, these are going to be the NFTs that we're going to be minting. Quite simple, again, sample collection, but we already have the metadata associated with it, so this saves us time. Perfect for a tutorial. Now, we've arrived at the point where we can actually create our CandyMachine. So we're going to come through here to point 4 and read the documentation. So our images and metadata are located in the same directory. Doesn't really matter where they're located because we can reference them anywhere, but yeah, you have your images and metadata, this right here, right? Second point, we have funds in our wallet. Again, let's check with Solana balance. There we go, for Sol, and this is the wallet that we created here, cmdevnet.json, right? And then we have our configuration file. Let's check that. Do we have our configuration file right here? We replaced the Sol Treasury account as a target account. We've changed the price, and we have 10 corresponding from 0 to 9. Those are 10 pictures. We have 10, right? The other important point is the go live date. This will specify when your collection will be available for mint. This is in the past, so by the time we deploy it, it's already going to be live. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to be using this command, but I'm actually wrote my own just here to be able to use it more easily. So I'm going to, and I missed a T at the beginning. So TS node, the usual CandyMachine CLI, so packages CLI source CandyMachine v2. The command we're going to be using is upload. We need to specify that we're going to be uploading to the devnet. We need to specify the key, which is right here, cmdevnet.json. We're going to need to specify the CandyMachine configuration file, which we just did here, config.json. We need to specify a name for the cache, which here is example, and you can just use example. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to show you later what it is. It's a tiny detail. Just use example. And in the last part, in the last line, we're going to specify where our assets and metadata is living. So that is the assets pictures, and / just means that it's in this local directory. Right. So we're going to hit enter on this, and we're going to pretty much just wait. This will do everything for us in one go. This will create a right. Okay, hold on. Right. I missed in the configuration file that we need to use Airweave, not Airweave Sol for DevNet. Again, this is very much subject to change and will probably change in the future. By the time you see this video, this might be different, so read the documentation on the most up-to-date version. We're going to execute it again. So what this is going to do is this is going to create a program. This is going to deploy a CandyMachine configuration referencing the CandyMachine program, the central CandyMachine program that is out deployed on the DevNet, and then it will upload all of our images to Airweave for us and just give us a really nice address of the program of the account that our CandyMachine is deployed to. So right here, this line, we need to copy this. This is going to be the address. This is going to be the public key of our CandyMachine. This is very important, so we're going to make sure to take a note of it. And as you can see, it is processing assets. So this is uploading our assets and metadata to Airweave right now. So we're going to wait for this to complete. If this fails at any point, you can just rerun this command. It already remembers because we're using the cache here. And let me show you the cache in the meantime. So this is, we're just going to here going to come here to cache devnet example.json. And if we come to the very beginning, so here program, the UUID don't really matter what that means. This is our public key again. We took a note of it. If you didn't, you can find it here as well. And it's just a reference to every single item that's in there. If we go at the very end, you can see that here, cache name example. This was here, this example. This is just so that our command knows which cache to use if we need to rerun it or if we need to update our CandyMachine later down the road. Now, we have a successful upload, so this means that our CandyMachine has been deployed. What we're going to do is we're going to take the public key of our CandyMachine, and we're going to go to the Solana Explorer to check on it. We're going to switch from mainnet to devnet here, and we're going to just paste in our account. And there we go. We have our CandyMachine right here. And as you can see, our assigned program ID is the central CandyMachine. And if we come down here, these are just details. This is that we deployed the CandyMachine. These are the transactions of deployment. Just blabbering at this point. All right. So now that we've deployed our CandyMachine, let's go back to the documentation to see what is next. Okay, so the next step is that we have to verify that that our CandyMachine deployed properly. All of our assets are there. All of the metadata is there. So we're going to come here to point number 5, verify upload. We're going to copy this command and we're going to paste this command in here. Now what we're going to do though is we're going to change the key pair that we're going to be using, or at least for me. If you follow the documentation point to point, then just put in the path to your key pair. Don't overcomplicate it. So we're using cmdevnet.json. I'm in the right folder, yeah. Okay, so we're using devnet, passing in the right key, and then using the example cache. We're using the verify upload command. Hit enter, let this verify our upload. It just takes a second. There it is, beautiful. Beautiful. So this means that our deployment of CandyMachine and all of our assets has went A-OK. We're going to come back to the documentation and we're going to go to the next step. So now is the stage where your CandyMachine is fully functional, it's fully deployed, and your NFTs are pretty much ready to mint. Not pretty much, your NFTs are ready to mint. So what we're going to do is we're going to mint 1 token into this address that we've been using, to the cmdevnet that we've been using. And the way we can do that is, instead of verify upload, we're just going to use mint 1 token. We're going to use the command mint 1 token. I'm going to actually stop this for a sec and show you that I have 0 tokens in this account right now. So we're going to use Solana balance. What is that command? Solana SPL token accounts. All right. So what we're going to do is SPL token account. And none. We have no SPL token accounts. I'm going to mint 1 token, and then we're going to see that we're going to have an SPL token account because, well, minting a token needs to create a token account for us. Mint 1 token. Takes a second. And we have successfully minted one of the NFTs that we've uploaded to our CandyMachine to our wallet that we just created, into the cmdevnet wallet. There it is. So we're going to go back to SPL token accounts, and as we can see, we have a token, we have an NFT right here. Now if we want to check what that is, what we can do is this is the public key of this wallet. As usual, we can go to the Solana Explorer, we can switch to the DevNet because nothing is going to be on mainnet. Paste in our address and see that we have a token. Let me make this bigger. There it is. So this is our address, and now we have a token that is number 7 from our assets. This is number 7, orange. Let's just go here. Let's just make sure that it is indeed the same one, number 7.png. Right, because we started at 0, so it's number 6, but number 7, there we go. It's beautiful. Alrighty. So this is pretty much how you deploy from start to finish the CandyMachine. Now it's not much use because people are not going to be minting through a CLI, or you're not going to be minting to your own CLI. So what we're going to do in this second part is we're going to set up the front end that is also included in this repo. We're going to set up the front end to be able to mint through our browser. This is a very basic front end provided by this repository, but it's going to get the job done, and that's pretty much it. So let's get on to that. I'm going to clean my terminal. Now, to create a front-end minting site for this, we're going to come here to 7, minting website, and we're going to follow the instructions here. So we have a file here called, in the packages, CandyMachine UI, env.env.example. We're going to rename this file to be just .env, and as you can see, there is a placeholder here. It says your CandyMachine program ID. So we're going to take our CandyMachine program ID and just paste that in there and save. Now after this, we're going to switch to this path, so switch to this folder that I've already done. So Metaplex.js packages CandyMachine UI. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a yarn install. I've already done this before, so it's going to be pretty fast for me, but for you it will probably take a good second. If yarn install does not work, try npm install. I've found that there was a GitHub issue as well. For some people, yarn install did not work. npm install did. Either or works. Now what we're going to do is we're going to simply do yarn start. Make sure that your React App CandyMachine ID is here in the env file, and the env file has been renamed to .env from .env.example. Now we're going to hit yarn start, and this is going to take a second to pull up the development server. It will automatically open the browser window for you. If it doesn't refresh automatically, then you can just refresh. This will take a minute or two to get set up, and we're back right there. Okay, and it already came up. It all automatically opened our wallet, which I've created just a development wallet with a couple SOL in it. It already opened it, and it's asking us for authentication. As always, even this is development, read what's written there. Always read what you're giving access to. This is just general crypto safety. In this case, the same. So view your balance activity and request approval for transactions. No auto approve. We're going to connect our wallet to this. And we have here remaining 9, and the price is 0.1. There's only 9 remaining because we already minted one through the CLI. Now, it's very important that you set the network in your Phantom wallet. I'm going to use Phantom wallet. You can use whatever wallet suits you. I'm going to change, you have to change the network from mainnet beta to devnet. This is very important. On the mainnet, it's not going to work because we have deployed this CandyMachine on the devnet, and Phantom is telling you that you are currently on devnet, which is the correct one. As you can see, I have 10 SOL. I've airdropped this from before. If you need to airdrop some SOL into your wallet, you can click this address up here, and it's going to copy it out, and you can come here to the terminal as we did in the beginning, and you can just do Solana airdrop 2 and then paste in your address, and it's going to be airdropping 2 SOL. In just a second, it's going to arrive as well. Solana, you are so amazing. So we're going to come here. We have 9 remaining because we already minted one. with a price of 0.1 that we've configured here before in config.json, price 0.1. And then we're going to click mint. And it comes up to approve the transaction. This is how much it's going to cost us. 0.11, 0.1, that's a 0.01. Oh, dang. Fee, dang. We're going to come here, approve, and with that, our NFT is going to be minted. Congratulations, mint succeeded. So we're going to come here to our Phantom wallet, and as you can see, it took the Solana from our wallet, and we have gotten the first NFT. And with this, your CandyMachine is pretty much fully functional. That's pretty much it. We're going to mint one more just for the sake of it, just to show you that it's indeed randomized instead of the straight shooter CandyMachine V1. You're going to come here. We've got 2. We've got 1 and 10. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful NFTs. And that pretty much wraps up on how you can deploy and how you can use a CandyMachine V2 on Solana. Now, of course, this is, again, just a bare bones deployment. If you would do a full production deployment, you would not be just using these settings. You would very much use CAPTCHA. You would very much probably use whitelisting, and you would use an application firewall on your front end, just as extra layers, as many layers as you can to avoid bots and people minting tons and tons of NFTs and therefore making everybody else suffer, because that is going on a lot lately and we don't want that. So anything that you can do to avoid bots or avoid people abusing your mint, do anything you can. Now, just as a last thing, I want to show you that indeed the funds that we've spent from this wallet arrived at the wallet that we've specified right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a Solana balance. It's telling us we have 4.1 Sol. What we're going to do is we're going to mint just one extra more so that you can see that it goes from 4.1 to 4.2. Now we have the mint, and we're going to come back Solana balance 4.2. And just to show you Solana address, this is the address of our DevNet JSON private key. Just to give you an idea how fast this is changing and how fast this is developing, since I've started recording this video, I've started with, it was still referencing right here the fair drop. It was saying fair drop instead of CandyMachine UI. The CandyMachine UI is the right one to use. The new version of the docs just got deployed 1 hour ago, so that's why it took me a second. I was quite confused there of the docs referencing fair launch, but CandyMachine UI was the new name. This is how fast it's changing. So to conclude this, shout out to Chase from Solana Labs for making me do this tutorial. And if you have any questions, problems, issues, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Oyakaro, and you can come here to the code base on GitHub. Look at the issues, as I said in the beginning. If you have any issues, you can just do this and then search my problem, paste the error message in here, and there will probably be somebody who already encountered that issue. This was the case with yarn install versus npm install with me the other day. So that's pretty much it. If there's something that you still can't figure out, you can join the Metaplex Discord, and there will somebody be for sure who can help you. So that's it. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you later.